How long did it take you to really work your way up to a position to where you stayed in the majors and you weren't fluctuating between the two?
Still working on that. No,
Okay.
I spent a year and a half in the minor leagues. I signed my, basically you don't really play a full season that year, but I went to rookie ball, didn't ever play, just shag balls. And then my next year, I played half a season in low A, did pretty well, got promoted to high A, played half a season in high A. The following year, I got assigned to the double A team out of spring training, played half a season there, got called up for one start. They were basically at the trade deadline. They were trading somebody away. I got called in to fill in for a spot while they were making this trade, make that start, then get sent back to AAA. Got called up a little bit later in the year. And then really from then on was either in the big leagues or in AAA. But that's the interesting thing even about like pro sports that I think relates to anybody and is a good lesson for anybody. People would always talk about sports, especially baseball, that it's easier to get there than it is to stay there. And whether it's business or sports, anything at a high level, it's easier to get there than it is to stay there. What I mean by that is when you get to the highest level, right, you've got there. And it can be very easy to let off the gas. But the reality of the situation is there's a bunch of other people that were just like Jacob that are just as talented that are coming behind me that might have a little more hunger because they've never been there. And now you got to keep fighting off those people every single year because they want your spot. They want your job. They want your real estate. They want your building. They want the workflow that you have. So it's easier to get there than it is to stay there. And the lesson for me was always like, you got to keep your foot on the gas no matter what.
Would it be fair to say that when you were in the minors, you were one of the highest paid guys there?
Yeah. So when I signed, I was one of the highest paid high school draftees of all time. So the way the draft works was we really didn't make much money in the minor leagues, but you could potentially make a significant signing bonus. But it was all across the board. There were guys signing for millions of dollars. There were guys signing for hundreds of thousands of dollars. There were guys signing for next to nothing. Then you all go to the minor leagues together. So it's a really interesting dynamic where, some guys are coming into the minor leagues with a ton of resources behind them that they could potentially use to help them throughout their career. Other guys are getting to the end of a baseball season and they're saying, hey, I got to go find an Uber so I can start working and make some money in the off season or teach lessons.
I'm still kind of getting hung up on this. So for a guy to go from, high school to the majors and get that $1 million signing bonus or whatever it is, or it fluctuates,
yep,
right? Hundreds of thousands, millions, whatever the case is. That's very rare versus the college path, right?
Definitely more rare.
Okay.
Really, the guys that are getting drafted and signed out of high school for the most part are guys with elite talent that have potentially elite upside. So teams are willing to pay them enough money that they're willing to give up a scholarship. For me, I gave up a scholarship to go to the University of North Carolina, which one would have been a ton of fun. Two, they had a really good baseball program that had continually produced high draft picks. And three, it was a great education. So it takes a lot of leverage that the team has to deploy in order to get a high school player to sign out of high school.
Because once you pass up on that scholarship, there's no going back, right? You go to the majors and you either have success, you sink or swim.
For the most part, yeah. I mean, I was fortunate. I was able to get money that I could go back and use for school, but that college experience wasn't anything like a normal college experience that an 18 to 22-year-old kid, and especially if you've ever been to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, a great university with a great campus and everything like that. So I never got that experience back for sure.
Sure. One thing, and you kind of briefly touched on it, that I find fascinating about you is you saw massive success at a young age and you still had the motivation to get up and keep working, to keep going at it. Maybe you weren't as hungry as other guys, or maybe you were, but would you say that just your head down mentality from when you were younger helped you in the major leagues as well? Or was it something else, maybe something bigger, a different fire that's inside of you that's maybe not inside of everyone?
For me, I always had the same thought process. And my thought process was this: I wanted to make sure that whenever my career was over, that I really didn't have any regret. I knew going into baseball that baseball is going to be fleeting. It's going to last for a certain period of time, but this is not what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life, right? If you're a Hall of Fame baseball player, you play 20 years in the big leagues. If you play 10 years in the big leagues, you're in the top 2% of guys I think that have ever played the game. With that, I wanted to make sure that every single day that I put in the work I needed to put in. One thing I learned in baseball was that there's going to be a lot of things that are outside of your control. It's that way for anything in life, but there's certain things that are totally inside your control. So what are the things that are totally inside of my control that I can show up and do every single day? And then I can be completely comfortable with whatever the results are.
Do you still apply a lot of that to your life today? The things that are completely in your control is what you're focused on. Like, for example, with baseball, maybe that's practicing 2 to 3 hours a day. And I don't know if that's way off or if that's accurate. And then today, maybe that's waking up early and exercising before you start work. Like, have you seen a lot of that carry over to chapter 2 or the new phase?
Selfishly, yes. I say selfishly because for me, I have to have stuff that I can have control over the outcome throughout my day. As we both know in business and entrepreneurship, 1 + 1 does not always equal 2. 1 + 1 + 1 could equal 0. 1 + 1 + 1 could equal 100. But sometimes what that equals is completely outside of your control. So for me, something that's really helped me has just been having things that I can control on a daily basis, that I know that I can put the inputs to get the outputs I want. You mentioned one of them. I mean, one of them's just working out every single day. But for me, it's a cliche term, but it's doing things that are high leverage activities that I know that, hey, on Monday, this might not have a direct result on Tuesday. But on Monday of 2022 versus Monday of 2023, it's going to have a pretty good result. So, I mean, there's certain things I'm even doing today that are just very focused on what are things that are inside of my bubble that I can control, that no matter what the output is, I know that's outside of my control.